Not sure if you guys saw this over the weekend. Not sure which day it happened, but it definitely happened over the weekend. And the response is mind-boggling.
An investigation is underway after the home of a South Carolina judge went up in flames over the weekend. Take a look. It happened in Edisto Beach, about an hour south of Charleston. The home is owned by Judge Diane Goodstein, who serves as the state circuit court. Officials say 3 people were injured in the fire, including Goodstein's husband, former Democratic State Senator Arnold Goodstein. Judge Goodstein made news last month after issuing a ruling blocking South Carolina from handing over millions of voters' personal data to the Department of Justice.
A judge's home is on fire. It apparently has been firebombed. It's considered an arson. Some of her family members were at home. Her husband, I believe, and also a son. The place was completely engulfed in flames. This comes off of this talk about all this violent rhetoric that's coming from the left. But let's tone in more on this particular story of Judge Diane Goodstein. And in case you guys didn't really hear that last aspect, they're pissed at her and came after her because she blocked their order to have voter registration, personal information to be given over to the Department of Justice so they could do whatever it is that they want with it. So they could also maybe create more enemies lists of people that voted the wrong way, because this is a dictatorship. Didn't Donald Trump already tell you that? So that place is on fire. People are talking about it. It's pretty obvious as what it was in response to this, or this targeting of it, that people like Stephen Miller wanted to see happen. And I wasn't the only person who thought about that. Democratic Representative Daniel Goldman also thought about that as well, too. He pointed out Trump, Stephen Miller, and MAGA World have been doxing and threatening judges who rule against Trump, including Judge Goodstein. Today, someone committed arson on the judge's home, severely injuring her husband and her son. And he asks, will Trump speak out against this extreme right that did this? I think it's a pretty simple question. Will he speak out against it? Because he was definitely railing on every time there's any kind of doxing of anybody or anybody that's being attacked. Anytime those Supreme Court justices, those conservative justices had folks standing out in front of their house and wrote something on the chalk on the sidewalk, because that's so threatening. But this judge's house going up in flames after these guys continue to target her and point out that she's one of the bad ones. She's one of the people you have to go attack. You guys have been unleashed. There's no more handcuffs on you. That's the type of things that Stephen Miller and Donald Trump have been talking about, as they then also cry and whine as the victim. So again, don't listen to their dishonesty. So Stephen Miller, because, he's a little, a peon of a piece of shit, had to respond to what it is that Goldman then said. He says, you're vile, deeply warped and vile. While the Trump administration has launched the first ever government-wide effort to combat and prosecute illegal doxing, sinister threats, and political violence, you continue to push despicable lies, demented smears, malicious defamation, and foment unrest. Despicable. This guy needs to calm his ass down. Meanwhile, the Democrat AG nominee in Virginia is fantasizing about murdering his opponents, and a Biden federal judge is showing radical leniency to a monster who tried to assassinate a Supreme Court justice. While you post your libelous madness, we will keep focusing on delivering public safety and fighting domestic terror. This sumbitch just went through an entire post about domestic terror, talking about how vile and deeply disturbed and warped this Democratic congressman is. The one thing that they don't like, if you've noticed, Donald Trump does it, this guy definitely does it, is any kind of pushback with any kind of awareness that might let people know who it is that we're dealing with. Representative Goldman is one of those points of radar. And he responded again. Now try answering my question. If you're trying to combat political violence, why don't you condemn the political violence against a judge who ruled against you and your administration? It's pretty simple. Do you condemn all political violence or only that against your supporters? And he shouldn't even give him this kind of weird opening to think there's some kind of political violence going on against his folks that aren't committing political violence. Anybody that's confronted ICE agents or DHS officers or the federalization of all these cops in these cities has done so out of self-defense. And as these guys have attacked people, and we're going to get to in a second, damn near killing other folks and definitely killing more people that we've seen disappeared into random gulags and concentration camps, they go in front of cameras and cry. But I want to show you guys a little bit more of who Stephen Miller is. This is the day before that happened. He said the issue is now very simple and clear. There's a large and growing movement of left-wing terrorism in this country. It's well organized and funded, and it's shielded by far-left Democrat judges. I'm going to say it again. He said it's shielded left-wing terrorism is shielded by far left Democrat judges, prosecutors, and attorneys general. The only remedy is to use legitimate state power to dismantle terrorism and terror networks. You got a judge's house on fire because she ruled against their sorry ass. You got a Democratic congressman who pointed out how he's doing this. There's a clear, wide open example of him doing this, as he then calls everyone as vile, despicable, and anti-American. But he's automatically calling anybody who disagrees with him domestic terrorists with terror networks, including judges. You know that back and forth that Stephen Miller had with Dan Goldman? That was at like late 10 o'clock at night on the 5th, a couple days ago. In between those fights back and forth where he denied having any kind, I don't know if he even really denied it, where he accused any Democrats of having violent rhetoric. And I can't believe you'd say this. You're vile and disgusting. He literally posted this around the exact same time. He says ICE facilities are federal property conducting a federal mission of immigration enforcement that protects the lives and livelihoods of 300 million American citizens. The president has undisputed authority under both statute and the Constitution to deploy troops stationed in any state to defend a federal facility from domestic terrorism or violent assault. And he puts in parentheses, just as he has the authority to dispatch any federal protective asset from and to any state. He's mad about Oregon and Portland. He said the Portland police have refused to render aid and assistance to ICE officers. The intention and purpose of the attacks on ICE is to prevent ICE from performing its duties and to force as many ICE officers as possible out of the field and into a defensive posture. That sounds like war talk. He says it is a violent armed resistance designed to incapacitate the essential operations of the duly elected federal government by force. A district court judge has no conceivable authority whatsoever to restrict the president and commander-in-chief from dispatching members of the U.S. military to defend federal lives and property, aka attack American citizens, use them as training grounds, as we told the military that he wants to do. Last part about this. Today's judicial ruling is one of the most egregious and thunderous violations of constitutional order we've ever seen, and is yet the latest example of an unceasing efforts to nullify the 2024 election by fiat. By the way, you know what he's so mad about? If there was another appellate judge, a federal judge somewhere that ruled against their sending of more troops into Portland, Oregon, that's what he's over here bitching and complaining about. While he's having a fight with Representative Goldman about how these other folks are attacking too many of these right-wing and ICE agents. While at the same time, what he's fighting with Goldman about is a firebomb that happened at a judge's house that they're considering liberal. You just keep throwing your bullshit against the wall and they expect it to stick because they know the level of stupidity combined with the level of racism through this country is palpable. And it's enough for them to continue to act like they're on the right side of this.